Hello everyone, happy Wednesday. I hope you're okay in spite of the rain, the very miserable rain. But I'm sure you found joy doing something, and I'm going to find joy reading this story. So we're on chapter 4, How the Three of Us Became Four. So let's see what happens next. So now, little puppies, and I do wish some of you would stop wriggling so. It puts me off, makes me forget where I am in the story. So now, there were 3 of us all together following the yellow brick road towards the Emerald City to see the great and terrible Wizard of Oz. And our newfound friend Scarecrow turned out to be the best of companions, in one way especially. He did not eat. Scarecrows didn't need to, apparently, which meant that Dorothy and I could share those few sandwiches that were in her basket, so there was more for each of us, importantly, more for me. And, like Dorothy, Scarecrow loved to natter away to tell stories. There was never a dull moment. I sniffed and snuffled along the roadside as we went, loving all the new smells of this strange place, missing some of the old whiffs, of course. No whiff of rabbit here, no whiff of squirrel or hedgehog, no whiff of sausages either. But I didn't mind. I had Dorothy and Scarecrow to listen to as we walked along. Walking, it soon turned out, wasn't at all easy for Scarecrow. He kept staggering about and tripping over and falling. I am not used to this walking lark, he explained as Dorothy helped him up yet again onto his feet. I am used to standing still, but don't worry, it doesn't hurt when I fall over, not one bit. Dorothy took his arm anyway to steady him, to help him on, but mostly I could see it was because she liked him. She talked to him more about how we had got here and all about home and Kansas and Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, and about how much she missed them and how much she wanted to go home. Home is home, she said, and home is best. You're so doggone right, I woofed. And besides, said Dorothy, Uncle Henry must be missing his hat by now. We have to get it back to him. Hat? Said Scarecrow. Dorothy took Uncle Henry's hat out of the basket and held it up. It's a long story, said Dorothy, and she gave it to me to carry for a while. Made me feel right at home trotting along with Uncle Henry's hat in my mouth. We've just got to get home, that's all. Well, if you'll forgive me for saying so, Dorothy, Scarecrow said, I can't imagine why you would ever want to leave this beautiful country to go back to that grey old Kansas and those horrible twisters and the like. From the way you tell it, it sounds like a most dreadful place. I mean, just look around you. Isn't this the most lovely of places, with the kindest of people? And you want to leave it and go back to that wind and all that tumbleweed? I don't understand you at all, I really don't. But then I don't understand anything, do I? I wouldn't, would I? Because I have no brains. My head is stuffed with straw like the rest of me. Well, I think it's lucky for Kansas that you want to live there because you are a good and kind person, and countries need good and kind folk. Lucky Kansas! Lucky Kansas! And Scarecrow skipped along with Dorothy for a while, both of them chanting, Lucky Kansas! Lucky Kansas! Over and over, till Scarecrow tripped and stumbled and nearly fell over himself again. They were a bit breathless after that, and so they sat down to rest by a stream. I wasn't breathless at all, so I went exploring. There was a smell about the place I recognised, the same smell as Uncle Henry's saw in the back barn at home, the same smell as his scythe and his great heavy fencing hammer. It was definitely the smell of metal, but strong though the smell was, I couldn't see anything that was made of metal anywhere. I followed the scent of it, but lost it. So in the end I got fed up looking and went to sit down with them by the stream, where I found Scarecrow telling Dorothy his story. Truth to tell, I was only made a week or 2 ago, he was saying. The Munchkin farmer who made me painted my ears and eyes to hear with and see with, a nose to smell with, and a mouth to talk with. He took great care. He said he thought I would like to see how the rest of me was made as he was making me. He's a very kind and thoughtful man, as I think I've told you. And it was interesting, if a little strange, to watch the rest of me coming together, taking shape, my arms and legs and body being stitched up and stuffed, then all my clothes put on me. The bit I didn't like so much was when he stuck up a pole at the back of my jacket and carried me out into the field, then hammered me in and left me, telling me to be a good Scarecrow and frighten off all the crows so they didn't fly down and eat his corn. I was pretty good at it first, frightened them all silly I did, but then this crow came flying along and landed on top of my head. You don't fool me, he called. You're not a proper munchkin at all. You're nothing but an old sack stuffed with straw, aren't you? Not a brain in your head. Couldn't hurt a fly, could you? Doesn't matter whether you're a bird, be a bird like me or a man like a munchkin. You've got no brains. Now, if you had brains, you could be of some use. As it is, you're just a brainless, worthless scarecrow, no use to anyone. And of course, that old crow was right. Soon he was helping himself to the cord all around my feet, and there was nothing I could do about it. Then all the birds for miles around arrived and were pecking away happily. I couldn't even do my job, not without a brain, could I? The poor old Munchkin farmer was nice enough about it. Not your fault, he told me. Maybe I didn't make you right. Not your fault you haven't got any brains, is it? Dorothy tried to cheer him up as best she could. As soon as we get to the Emerald City, as soon as we see the great and terrible Wizard of Oz, we'll put that right, she said. You'll see. You'll have your brains. Don't let's be downhearted. Up we get and off we go. So on we went. Now, people folk, and scarecrows come to that, don't seem to see so well in the dark as we dogs do. So it was me that found the cottage in the wood, or rather my nose did. I should say. I've got a good nose, just about the best nose there is, if I say it myself. The metal scent I discovered a while before, well, I picked it up again, and it led me right to the door of this cottage, which was rather strange as it was built entirely of wood, and when we went inside I saw that all the furniture was made of wood as well. I was really puzzled by that, but Dorothy and Scarecrow were delighted with the place. We were so tired with all that walking. All we wanted to do was sleep. It was dry and clean, and there was a sort of bed of dried leaves in the corner for Dorothy and me. I curled up beside her. Scarecrow stayed standing by the window. He said he preferred to stand. He was used to it and didn't sleep anyway. I don't really understand what sleep is for, he said. Oh, you will, murmured Dorothy beside me, already half asleep. Just as soon as you've got some brains, and soon you will have. Good night, Scarecrow. Good night, Dorothy, he replied. Good night, Toto. I woke up early. Scarecrow opened the door for me and I went out to explore the woods. That metal smell was stronger still. I had to find out what it was, but the scent took me round in circles and brought me right back to the cottage. Dorothy was up, searching the cottage for something to eat. The sandwiches and the fruit were all finished by now. Her basket was empty, apart from Uncle Henry's hat, and the cupboards were all bare. All she could find was an oil can on a shelf. We can't eat oil, can we? We shall have to find food somewhere soon. I'm so hungry, she said. I'm going outside. Or we'll starve. Come on, we're bound to find some fruit or nuts. There are trees everywhere here. So we walked off into the woods looking for fruit or nuts, anything we could find, but there was nothing. These are just forest trees, Dorothy said, not fruit trees or nut trees. What are we going to do? I thought when I first heard it that it was Dorothy groaning with hunger, but it wasn't. She was looking at me and so was Scarecrow. Did you groan, Toto? She said. The groaning was louder now and closer. It wasn't her doing it, not Scarecrow, not me. And then, through the trees, I saw something ahead of us in a clearing. A glinting it was, and a shining. It was something metal. I know metal when I smell it. My trusty nose, it never lets me down. I was off, following my nose. Dorothy and Scarecrow were coming along some way behind, so I got there first. In the clearing stood a man made entirely of tin, an axe raised above his head and about to chop down a tree. It was half chopped down already. He stood as still as a statue. But then the Tin Woodman groaned. I ran up to him. He smelt like Uncle Henry's saw, like his scythe, like his hammer, yes, and like his axe too. I bit the man's leg too, just to let him know that he wasn't to harm Dorothy. It hurt my teeth, so I didn't do it again. I barked instead, loudly, sharply, pointed my tail, bared my teeth, made my hackles rise like a bottle brush all along my back, just so he got the message. "Oh, hello, little dog," said the man of tin, and I backed away frightened, though I suppose I should have been used to strange talking creatures by then. Dorothy was so brave, though, she walked right up to him. "Was it you groaning?" "I've been standing here like this, groaning, for a year or more," he replied, "and no one has ever heard me before. I'm so glad you came." His voice echoed and boomed inside him as he spoke. "Are you stuck or something?" Dorothy asked. "Why is everyone around here so stuck? Can we help you?" "That is kind of you," he replied. "I need to be oiled. My can of oil, it's in my cabin. I should be so obliged if you would fetch it for me." "I saw it. I know where it is," said Dorothy. "I'll fetch it. Don't go away." Off she ran back through the wood. "I may be brainless," said Scarecrow, "but I don't think you could go away, Mr. Tin Man, even if you wanted to, could you?" "Quite right," said the Tin Man. While we waited for Dorothy, Scarecrow and the Tin Man, we chatted While we waited for Dorothy, Scarecrow and the Tin Man chatted away as if they'd been friends for a long time, comparing notes as to whether it was better to be made of tin or straw. "Well, at least you can't rust up like me," said the Tin Man. "I don't like rain." "Well, at least you can't catch fire like me," said Scarecrow. "I don't like fire." Dorothy was soon back, and she set to at once, oiling the Tin Man's neck so he could begin to move his head, turn it this way and that, shake it, nod it. Scarecrow took hold of his head and helped to loosen it gently. Then Dorothy oiled his arms and his legs and his hips as well. Soon he could move his knees and his elbows quite freely and could lower the axe, wiggle and wriggle and jiggle just about everything he needed to. He danced up and down in sheer delight. "You have saved my life, my dear friends," he said. "But what are you doing here in the forest? How did you find me? My name is Tin Woodman. I live at that cottage. But who are you?" So they all shook hands there in the forest and introduced themselves. I have to say, I felt rather left out at that moment, so I reminded Dorothy I was there, loudly. "Toto was the one who found you, Tin Woodman," said Dorothy. "I'm sorry he bit you, but he gets rather excited sometimes, I'm afraid." And then she told him the whole story of how we were there in the land of Oz and how we were on our way to see the great and terrible wizard who knows everything and can do everything and could help us get home to Kansas. "Home is home," said Dorothy, "and home is best." "You're so doggone right," I woofed. "What I need is not a home, but a heart," sighed Tin Woodman. "If only I could come with you, I could ask him, couldn't I? He could give me a heart. He's a kindly sort of wizard, isn't he?" "I hope so," said Scarecrow, "or I'll never have any brains." "Of course you can come along," said Dorothy. "The more the merrier, as Aunt Em always says when she's collecting the eggs. As for the great Wizard of Oz, let us hope he is kind, but I've heard he's also terrible." "Oh, I don't care. This is the very best day of my life," cried Tin Woodman happily. And off he clanked through the trees, dancing a little jig as he went. "I can walk, look at me. I can dance, look at me. And I have new friends. And I'm going to have a heart." With a bit of luck, he stopped and turned round. "Don't forget the oil can, Dorothy. If I get caught in the rain, I'll rust up and go all stiff again, and I don't want that." So Dorothy put the oil can in her basket, and off we went after Tin Woodman till he came out of the wood at last and found the yellow brick road again, me trotting along in front, tail waving, nose to the ground, sniffing out whatever smelt interesting. And in this place every smell was more interesting. But nothing here smelt like Kansas. Even the rats and mice smelt different, even more whiffy. To chase they were just the same. I've never caught any, not once in my life, but they're such fun to chase. I stayed quite close to Dorothy and Scarecrow. I didn't want to get too close to the Tin Woodman. He was clanking along quite clumsily, still not used to walking, I could tell that. He was all arms and legs, walking a bit like a puppet on a string. I didn't want to get under his feet. But it turned out to be very lucky that he was with us, because it wasn't very long before the yellow brick road had narrowed and the trees had grown so thick on either side that the branches blocked the way. Dorothy and I sat down, not knowing quite what to do. But Tin Woodman chopped a way through for us, singing as he did so in time with his chopping. He was never jollier. I discovered that when he was chopping. I'm telling you, my little puppies, Tin Woodman could chop even better than Uncle Henry, and Uncle Henry is pretty darn handy with that axe. I mean, the yellow brick road had been grown right over by the forest on either side. We'd never have got through without the Tin Woodman and his axe, so we were mighty pleased to have him along. Once a way through was cleared, Dorothy clapped her hands and we all got ready to be on our way again. "Up we get and off we go," she said. "Off down the yellow brick road." That takes us to the next chapter, which will be how a jolly woodman became a Tin Woodman. So we'll find out what happened to him. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.